Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All your technological equipment working? Thank you for joining us here this afternoon. I want to just give you a brief overview of the events of last night, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chief Fowler, who will give you a more detailed accounting of the events. Last night at approximately 10:52, a uniformed Syracuse police officer operating a marked police vehicle conducted a traffic stop on a car in the 600 block of Walnut Avenue. There was a male driving and no other passengers. The officer approached the vehicle and while speaking with the driver, the officer observed the handle of a handgun in the vehicle. I want to tell you all that, as is the case with officer-involved shootings, there are several protocols that go into place. The most important protocol is that this is investigated immediately, and so this is currently the subject of a district attorney's investigation, which will limit some of the answers that we can give you to questions. But with that being the case, I'm going to ask Chief Fowler to come up to the podium and to talk about in detail the rest of the events as they unfolded last night.
Sure, thanks, Mayor. Our officer conducted a vehicle and traffic stop, and upon observing the handle of a handgun, the officer retreated back to his vehicle, at the same time ordering the male to keep his hands up. The driver of this vehicle exited the car and began to fire shots at our officer. The officer discharged his duty weapon, striking the subject at least once. The officer then requested an ambulance and additional officers respond. As the additional officers responded, they approached the male subject and they observed that he still had the handgun in his possession. Officers immediately provided first aid to the male, and the male was then transported to Upstate University Medical Hospital, where he died from his injuries a short time later. The male has been identified as Derek Brown. I will spell Derek's first and last name. His first name is spelled D-E-R-I-C, last name Brown. He's 41 years of age and he resides in the city of Syracuse. As per our standard protocol, the name and the information associated with the police officer will be released at the 72-hour mark. We will issue that information in the form of a press release. This is an very active and ongoing investigation. At this point, we have recovered mounds of physical evidence, which includes video, however, and multiple witness statements. However, we know that in most cases there are people out there who have not come forward yet. We're interested in any information from anyone who's out there that may have witnessed this, and we ask that you call our Criminal Investigation Division at 442-5222, or you can use our SPD Tips apps to contact us anonymously. We also know that in the age of modern technology, where everyone has the use of a cell phone and video, and if someone happened to capture this, a portion of it, or anything that you may feel is important, or you may not feel that it's important, but anything related to this incident, we ask that you download your video and or forward your video to us through that Tips app, so we can have it and see if it could be of assistance to us in this case. And at this point, to whatever degree we can, we will answer your questions.
Chief, can you just say the suspect's name again and spell it as well?
Sure. The suspect's name is Derek Brown. He's 41 years of age. He resides in the city of Syracuse. The spelling of the suspect's name is D-E-R-I-C, last name Brown, B-R-O-W-N.
What made the officer pull him over in the first place?
It was a vehicle and traffic stop, and the driver had no tail lights, or his lights, the lights of his vehicle weren't turned completely on. As it turns out, he only had the daytime running lights on, and the officer pulled him over because he was approaching him from the rear and the rear lights wasn't on. It's just a vehicle and traffic stop.
What made him feel compelled to start firing at the officer?
That's a difficult question, and I'm not able to answer that question because I'm not inside his head to determine what caused him to react in that way.
Does
So
he have a criminal history?
he does have a criminal history, and that information, as standard practice, upon request, we will provide that information to you. But our suspect in this case does indeed have a criminal history, which includes weapons possession.
You say at least one shot was fired. Can you elaborate on a specific number more than that?
No, I can't because when we have a case such as this, our collection of evidence and the information that we provide, we have to be extremely careful with it because it's a fluid investigation. And so at this point, as I stand here, I cannot provide you with that information.
How miraculous is it that the officer was not injured?
Oh, it's extremely miraculous that the officer wasn't injured. It's as I often put it, it's just simply by the grace of God that he was not injured in this case.
How quickly did the suspect start firing upon?
Everything that I described to you from the point that our officer engaged the suspect at the driver's side of his vehicle to the point where the shots were fired by both the officer and the suspect, we're talking about less than 2 minutes. It happened just that quick.
And Chief, I don't even know if you can go into this, but was there what was the exchange before the shots were fired?
That's something that I cannot go into, other than the fact that the officer, upon seeing the weapon, ordered the suspect to show his hands. The suspect exited the vehicle, as I said, and began to fire shots at the officer. That's the only exchange that I can elaborate on at this point.
Was the officer running back to his vehicle while the shots were being fired, or was he already back to his vehicle once those shots were exchanged?
The officer was running back to his vehicle.
Was there a body camera or a video camera in the car that recorded this?
No. As I said before, we have video, but not from the officer. The video we have is third-party video.
Just to clarify, is it video of the actual shooting itself? Or, I mean, is it the time of the shooting? I don't know if I'm making my question clear.
You are making your question clear, but as clear as you've made your question, I'm going to be vague in my response to your question. We have video.
Okay.
Intentionally vague, by the way.
Okay.
And this was a marked vehicle with a uniformed officer, correct?
That's correct.
Were they able to have any kind of discussion before? I know it's routine for an officer to ask for license and registration. Was any of that able to take place?
Yeah, and I think there was a similar question asked earlier. I can't elaborate on the exchange between the officer and the suspect. At some point when this case is concluded, which includes the grand jury investigation, all of those details will be provided to you all.
Syracuse University has an alert system to notify students of when incidents happen near or around campus, and it was not activated last night. How do you think that the students are reacting towards this, and do you think that this SU campus should have alerted this orange alert?
I don't know. That's a question that you should pose to the Syracuse University. I don't know what their protocol is for making such an alert, but there's people on the SU campus that are very familiar with their protocol and much more equipped to answer and respond to that question than I am.
Do you know if the gun he had was illegal?
I'm going to say yes. Yeah, anytime you use a handgun to shoot at a police officer, it tends to make it illegal. So yes.
How's the officer doing today? I'm sure it was an emotional evening for him. How's he holding up?
As well as to be expected. You know, this is one of the incidents, and if you ask any police officer any place in America, and you say, hey, what are the three things that you would look to avoid throughout your entire career, this would rank right up there in the top three.
And Chief, just to clarify, there was no one else in the car with the suspect, and the officer was alone as well?
That's correct, yes.
Were you able to say if the gun was on the person or just in the car?
Did you hear the first part of what I spoke about when the officer approached? That's the only thing that I can say about the incident.
When an officer injures a suspect, what's the protocol for an ambulance for calling medical attention? What's the typical procedure?
That's it. After the scene has been rendered safe, meaning that there's no opportunity for the officer or the suspect to be further injured, or a third party to be further injured, the officer then make those communications. And what I want to point out is the fact that we are armed with our police radio, where we're in direct contact with the 911 center, and those requests are made through the 911 center. And in the city of Syracuse, we get a very quick response from our ambulance service, AMR.
How fast did backup respond? Some of the SU kids said that the street was just filled with cops almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
And then, obviously, we all know here that this is the second police officer involved fatal shooting in Syracuse this year. The amount of information that was released at 2 a.m. Was pretty complete. It was a full press release. Was that done intentionally, from what we learned earlier this summer, or what was the? Did you want a lot of information released this morning, or how did that work?
No. When we have incidents like this, people make a lot of assumptions, and people jump to a lot of conclusions. But if you pay attention, go back even beyond that. We try to have a standard way of doing things. The purpose of us giving out information now initially is for public safety reasons, right? Something happened. People see a lot of police cars in their neighborhood, so something has happened. So the public has a right to know what that something is, and if it is indeed ongoing. So that's the purpose of us releasing information in the beginning. And then now that something that I'm referring to happens to be a police-involved shooting where someone has lost their life. So now we have to identify the person and then provide whatever information we're capable of providing at this time, because now the public has a right to know. And we follow that protocol each and every time. And prayerfully we won't have to do this again no time soon.
Let me just add to that, to bolster what the chief says. It's our goal to be as transparent as possible, but obviously not all events are created equal. And there are protocols in place and there are complications in place, so we want to make sure that we give out as much correct information as we can do under those protocols. The worst thing that we could possibly do is give out incorrect information. And so when we have a comfort level that the information we're giving to the public is rock solid and not speculation, we release it then, and we make sure that we do so under the guidelines of the requirements and the protocols with officer-involved shootings, with how much physical evidence we have, and all of those others. So it's no two events are the same, and that's why our response to those events are different as well.
Were there other people around, as far as anyone who might have been involved, or just bystanders who?
As I've said already, no one else was involved in the incident. But there are, and when you talk about bystanders, in my line of business, we refer to them as witnesses, and we do have multiple witnesses to this event. However, as I said before, and thank you for the opportunity, I'll say it again, if there are others that are out there, please contact us at 442-5222. We're interested in hearing from you, or you can use our download our app and text us at SPD Tips.
Mayor, you gave an impassioned speech at Skiddy Park not long after that officer-involved shooting nearby. Does this and nights like last night re-trigger those emotions?
Look, any loss of human life is a tragedy, but as I just said earlier, no two events are similar. And, you know, we are thankful that the officer is safe. And I think that when all of the witness statements and all of the physical evidence and when the district attorney releases that, I believe that you will see that this is an unfortunate event, but that we had an excellently trained police officer who made the right decisions.
And you all can aid in that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I read one of the headlines this morning, and I'm not going to say where it was from, but whoever is responsible for it know who you are. It says police kill a suspect in a vehicle in traffic stop. That's what the headline read. Now, you all are armed. You were armed with information then, and you're armed with more information now. And how this is portrayed, it makes a big difference. And the public is going to look to you all for information. And how you provide them with that information, it will play into how they respond to that information. So you ask, and you all can aid in that process. And if we're all, responsible here, we can keep this from going in a direction that it likely should not go.
The mayor said the officer made the right decision. Do you agree with that?
Boy, that's a tough question to ask while the mayor is standing right next to me. I don't disagree with the mayor, but this is you need to understand the difference between the mayor and I. The mayor is the mayor. I'm the police chief, and so my job is to examine evidence and information and draw a conclusion based on the outcome of an investigation. Right now, we're in the middle of an investigation, and we're going to examine every piece of evidence that is available to us, and then we will draw our conclusion based on the outcome of that investigation. And that's my answer to your question.
Let me just also add to that you and the public are anxious to have as much information as possible, as quickly as possible. We live in a world where we have, minute attention spans. And I would caution you all and the public to take a deep breath and not make any conclusion until all of the evidence comes forward. And at that time, it's appropriate to make judgments and conclusions and evidence and decide what was appropriate or what was not appropriate after, as the chief appropriately said, after this full investigation is done. This is not a situation, and nor do we ever want it to be a situation where less than 12 hours we come in front of you and say, this is exactly what happened, and this is who is right and this is who is wrong. That's not appropriate at all, yet we understand that the public wants as much information as possible. We have given that as much information as we feel comfortable, given that there is an active investigation going on in this situation, to all of you, so that you can give the people who consume your media also all of the information. But the chief is right. We ask for responsibility on everyone. We ask for responsibility for the police department. We ask for responsibility from the local elected officials. We ask for the community to be responsible in how they think about this information, and that they wait before they wait for all the evidence to come forward before they make their own decisions.
Is the officer considered suspended between now and when they release the name? I'm not sure if that's protocol or not. The language that you use is inaccurate. Okay. The officer is on administrative leave as per policy. Any officer that's involved in an officer-involved shooting, whether it's fatal or not, is automatically placed on administrative leave. So we're following our protocol.
Chief, you may have said this, just when we were characterizing how many shots were fired at the officer, it was, I know it came out as numerous. Can we narrow that down to 10 or
No. As I stand here right now, no, I can't give you a number. Okay. It's just multiple shots. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.